Hi, Paul.
Hey, buddy. How's life?
Life is good so far, but I'm a little bit afraid that it will not be good after you tell me the next thing you're going to tell me.
Oh, you mean the magic joke?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I suppose so. So, Ville, I wonder, do you know where do fish keep their money?
I have no idea, Paul.
In a riverbank.
So, welcome to yet another episode of Fintech Daydreaming. We're thrilled that you, dear listener, took the leap and decided to give us a few minutes of your precious time to listen to us. If you're hearing this, it also means you didn't stop listening after that magnificently bad joke in the beginning. And for this, of course, we thank you. We continue to be the podcast that dives into the world of banking technologies and ever-changing landscape of fintech companies with real-life examples from guests and experts across the board. Without further ado, let's get started with episode 3 of season 2 of Fintech Daydreaming. Hello everybody and welcome back to the show. I'm Ville Sointu and I will be today for this episode. I am joined as always by my close friend and co-host Paul Krogdahl. So Paul, did you have a lot of fun editing the last episode?
Actually, it was really good, Ville. Long, tedious process, but when you have 3 passionate guys getting together to talk about things they care about and have an interest in, it gets colorful and interesting, right? So there was so much content and it was difficult to bring it down to a reasonable amount of time. But I think it was worth doing.
Yeah, I hope the audience found it entertaining at least. It was fun to connect back again with the same topics as we discussed. That it felt like we got like a round 2 of our conversations from a couple of years back. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and we're also going to have a fun episode today, because today we're going to talk about something very close to me, both personally and professionally, and this is collaboration over the boundaries of your own organization and company. In other words, how to bring people from different backgrounds together with a shared goal of defining the future of, in this case, digital financial services. Our guest today is Elina Mattila, who is the Executive Director of Mobey Forum. We'll get to Mobey Forum's 20-year history, its unlikely success story and future soon enough. But first, let's hear from our wonderful guest. So, hi Elina, how are things with you today? And could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi Ville, hi Paul. Thank you for having me here, first of all. I really appreciate the invite. So things are great with me in rainy Helsinki, but it doesn't matter. Things are looking great anyway. So my name is Elina Mattila. I'm the Executive Director at Mobey Forum, as Ville mentioned. And I have worked at Mobey Forum now for almost 8 years and in various different roles. And in this specific role for about 2.5 years. Before joining Mobey, I was working and living in London. I was working in the telecoms industry in an analyst house called Informa, where I was looking at what was then emerging services in mobile, so mobile music, mobile games, and video, and things like that. So a few years in the mobile industry, and before first in telecoms and now in banking.
All right. So a very kind of broad background coming into this role that you have right now. And I think that's exactly what is needed in a role like you have in Mobey Forum and running the organization. But before we start to get to the meat of things in terms of Mobey Forum, everything related to that, first I need to full disclosure. My current Nordea Bank is one of the founding members of Mobey Forum. I've also personally been part of the broader Mobey Forum community for almost 15 years, I think. And this year I was actually privileged to become a member of its board of directors. One could actually almost say that MobiForum is probably the most consistent part of my professional career. For some odd reason, I still haven't figured out what that is, but maybe we'll do that during this conversation. But enough about me. Today, we want to talk about what goes on behind the scenes in an industry organization like MobiForum and what actually makes it tick. As we've discussed many times in our previous episodes, collaboration in financial is hard work, and yet this work is absolutely necessary to make everything work together. Financial services, after all, as we've discussed before, is a lot about interoperability and collaboration. Now, the softer aspect of this work is all about sharing experiences, meeting people from different backgrounds, and building the mutual sense of we're all in this together kind of approach for making this all work. Now, the question is, how do you do this the right way? How do you build trust in a consistent way that keeps the audience engaged? And more importantly, how do you do it successfully for 20 years in a row? Now, luckily, because Elina is here, I don't have to answer all of these questions because that's exactly what she does in her day-to-day work. So let's get actually started with the topic of the day. And we obviously have to start from the obvious question, which is that for those of our listeners who haven't actually heard about MobiForum before, is there a brief way to describe what is MobiForum and maybe what it isn't?
Sure, I'll try to be brief. But let's see. So MobiForum is basically a global industry association empowering banks to shape the future of digital financial services. So we're a member-based organization with about 50 members. They are banks, card schemes, technology providers, various players in the digital financial services ecosystem. And of course, we're open for any organization to join us. Some of the familiar names, bank names that we have as members, in addition to Nordea, of course, are BBVA, ING, HSBC, UBS, TD Bank in Canada, these kind of guys. And technology providers, maybe most familiar names would be like Gemalto, Idemia, Giesecke Devrient. As some of the larger ones, then of course we have a lot smaller players as well that bring their own specific expertise into the discussions we have at Mobey. We're global, but in reality, we're quite sort of Europe and North America heavy, as most of our members come from these geographies. Very importantly, we're a not-for-profit organization. So what it means that all the income that we get from membership fees go right back into running the organization for the benefit of our members, and nobody benefits from Mobey Forum financially, right? So what we do is we try to identify and analyze commercial drivers and disruptors that we expect will become reality around 2 to 5 years from now. So we look into the future, but not kind of too far out there. So as an example, some of the key topics that we're discussing this year have been digital payments, data privacy, open banking, digital identity, these types of topics. And how we actually operate is that we organize member meetings quarterly and we run continuous expert groups for our members. And these are kind of places where our members come to share their experiences and learnings and to build new knowledge in a very kind of safe and trusted environment. So if we talk about digital identity or IoT, for example, we'll be thinking about sort of where does the bank sit in this ecosystem and what's the role of banks and so on. You also asked what we aren't. So we're not a standardization body. We don't work on standards or anything like that. We're not a lobby group either. So Mobey Forum is really a place where members come to have their most relevant dialogues and ask the most burning questions and get their strategies challenged. And more than anything, we're a community of like-minded people that are passionate about digital financial services and love getting together to discuss these topics and learn from each other and create new knowledge.
Yeah, I like the way you described it as a safe place for, let's say, in my case, for bankers to come together and share experiences. One of the terms that I hear thrown around a lot is Chatham Rules. So I guess MobiForum is under Chatham Rules.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's kind of one of the tools that we use to create this safe space where people can share what they've learned and what they've experienced without kind of having to worry about these things being publicly said. So it kind of means that, you know, whatever you say in Mobey Forum stays in Mobey Forum.
Yeah, personally, I find it a little bit tedious because you can't tweet about everything you hear in Mobey Forum, which would be fantastically interesting for everybody. But I guess it's better to maintain this safe space in that sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, but I gotta ask, and I guess a lot of people listening are thinking about this as well. Where does the name Mobey come from?
That's a very good question, and on one that we get a lot. It comes from the early days of Mobey. So Mobey was founded in the year 2000, so it's our actually 20th anniversary year this year. And back then, one of the key focuses was on mobile payments. Well, which it still is. We still look at payments a lot. But then at that time, it was kind of the main thing why MobiForum was founded. So the word Mobey comes from the two words, M-O-B, meaning being mobile, and the E-Y is from pay. So Mobey is mobile payments.
Okay, right. So not a subtle throwback to the 90s whaling industry. Or even if it was, maybe we're not going to discuss who the whales would be in that scenario. But anyway, so okay, good. I actually always wondered about that. There's also the word obey in there somehow, but okay, I think that your explanation was much better than the two theories that I had over there. So as you already mentioned, this is the year when MobiForum celebrates its 20-year journey. Now, at least in my mind, this is nothing short of incredible in this space where typical industry bodies and forums like this don't last more than 5 years. There's plenty of examples about that in the industry. Now, why was MobiForum launched back in 2000? And looking back at from where you are today, has its mission changed during these 20 years?
MobiForum was founded, kind of the official line was to encourage the use of mobile technology in financial services and to obtain interoperability of technical and security requirements for the financial industry for mobile services. So just a small task. And Mobey's role was to act as kind of an active liaison between various individuals and companies to enable this. So in the early days, the key players that were looking at this area of mobile payments were kind of banks, handset manufacturers, and mobile network operators. And those were the three major players that founded MobiForum back in 2000. And since then, the role of mobile network operators in mobile financial services and the handset manufacturers has kind of diminished. Of course, the operating systems still have a role to play. So maybe even if not the hardware itself. So we no longer really have mobile network operators or handset manufacturers as members. But if we'd like Apple and Google to join, since they're major players, they're not maybe best known for sharing learnings and experiences. So I don't think it's very realistic that they will be joining Mobey very soon. Though they have participated in some of our member meetings as speakers, so it's been great to hear from them. But so banks are really the ones that remain, and they remain as our focus from the early days. So in addition to the kind of the key players within Mobey that have evolved over the years, our focus has also evolved. In the beginning, the main focus was on payments, and that's still a very important part of what we do. But we've kind of broadened our scope a little bit now. So we're looking at other topics as well, such as the ones that I mentioned earlier, like open banking or digital identity, data privacy, and so on. And it's quite interesting to see how kind of Mobey's different focus areas have evolved throughout the years. It kind of tells a little bit of the history of the recent history of digital financial services as well. So that's quite interesting. And maybe one more thing would be kind of the words that we've used to describe Mobey. So in the beginning, we always used to call Mobey used to be sort of our focus was on mobile financial services. But I think it was about 5-6 years ago, we started thinking about the word mobile, and it kind of felt old. It felt a bit like 2005. So we kind of changed the wording into digital financial services, because nobody really cares anymore what the kind of end device that you use this services is anymore, whether it's a tablet or a phone or watch or whatever. But back then in 2000, it was mobile phones. That was
yeah. It was back in 2000. I still remember when all of this started. I mean, there was the perception that you have to have two separate SIM cards, one for the bank and one for the mobile operator. So you have to have all the bank secret stuff on SIM card, and then you need to have special hardware to have a two SIM card phone. And then when the mobile operators started kind of defining the space a lot, I remember we were joking that this typical four-corner model for card payments turned into almost like a nine-corner model with all the trusted service managers and all of those things. And then fast forward to 2020, where we are, it's something that's very, very different. But I think Mobey Forum has seen this 20 years development arc in a very unique way. It's an interesting way to look at it. But kind of keeping this moving for 20 years, I mean, is there a magic ingredient to kind of keep it all together? Why does Forum exist where so many others don't?
I'm sure there is a magic ingredient, and I think I would say that the magic ingredient is really the people at Mobey. So the people that regularly participate in Mobey's activities are kind of truly passionate about the industry and have a real hunger to learn more and to increase their knowledge. So I think they're really what makes Mobey. So what happens is a lot of the same people actually come to our member meetings, and they participate in our expert groups and are very active. So they really get to know each other very well, and they create a very kind of a deeper and more trusting relationship with each other. And when you add the Chatham House rules that we talked about previously into the mix, it really creates a different level of trust than I've seen in any other organization. And then this trust enables people to speak to each other very openly and honestly about what has worked for them, and what hasn't, which is a lot of the times even more interesting. Is something that you hear about less, the failures and what didn't work. And what we hear time and time again from our members is that one of the major benefit is the network that they have created at Mobey, so that when they face a challenge that they're not sure how to tackle in their work, they know the people in the industry that have worked on something similar, and they can just pick up the phone and call them, and you ask in confidentiality in a very secure environment how they solve this issue, and you can get a meaningful answer, which is not always easy to get by. So I think that's definitely the magic. I would also sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would also say that I think the kind of the non-commercial nature of Mobey is another, what was it, magic ingredient, because that kind of allows us to operate without having any alternative agendas or vested interests, or we're not out there to even make a profit. Our only goal is really to work for the benefit of our members. So I think that's definitely another really magic ingredient that we have.
Yeah, interesting point, by the way. You mentioned the people is one of the magic ingredients, and of course member meetings, a lot of discussions, working together. Now this implies, of course, meeting people physically. This year, of course, we have the COVID-19 going around, and this pretty much changed everything when it comes to organizing meetings and face-to-face, meeting people face-to-face and organizing conferences. Now, how did you guys? How did MobiForum cope with this new situation that I don't want to call the new normal, by the way, because it's so tired. So let's call it a new situation.
Yes, and I don't want it to be normal, so let's not call it a new normal. So yeah, like you said, it's really the people that make Mobey. So it's been a bit of a tough year for us as well, with the current restrictions on travel and not being able to meet face to face. But I think some of those strong relationships and the strong sense of community that we have kind of helped us through these times. And, we've had to make adjustments like everyone else, and we've moved our member meetings online. And we've started running these online sessions in the spring, and then they were very well received, which we were very happy about. Obviously, we were a little bit worried that there would be this webinar fatigue, as everybody was doing webinars in the spring, at least.
Yeah.
But people, our members, they really voted with their feet or with their computers in this case, I guess. And we had very high participation numbers, so we've been thrilled that we've been able to deliver valuable content to our members despite these restrictions.
Yeah, I think it's been an interesting transition for a lot of people involved, typically going into these type of meetings and conferences, including me, actually. Now, Paul, by the way, both you and me go to a lot of these speaking gigs and conferences or in different roles going into these seminars. How's your move and adjusting to these virtual versions of these conferences been so far?
I think from the perspective of delivering a session or doing a presentation, getting the information across has still been the same. I don't think that's changed too much. But to me, it's very much also about the serendipity that you get from a conference, the ad hoc meeting of people, not just the conveyance of information. You glean so much more from the interaction with other people that you lose in a virtual setting, which works when like you were saying, Elina, you're having a get together which is pre-planned and you do a meeting like that. But when you think about conferences where a lot of the interactions are maybe not planned and you build relationships and new contacts, etc., from the ad hoc interactions, I've lost a lot of that, and as someone who would categorize himself as a very much human to human or physical interaction person, I've dealt with it, but I'm really looking forward to getting back to a situation where we can meet face to face, we can have the large conferences and the interactions that go with that.
Yeah, I agree. This, especially in context of Mobey Forum, the best stuff happens during the breaks, even though the other content is great as well, because again, there's this feeling of being safe and being able to share things that you might not share in other conferences. But the meeting the people, really having their hands in the work of delivering digital financial services and then sharing experiences with other fellow bankers is really the value of Mobey Forum, and this goes for other seminars as well. Now, trying to replicate this kind of communal experience or networking experience is hard, and yeah, it's remains to be seen how long we have to work like this. But I feel I'm missing this networking element of meeting people over coffee and perhaps drinks during later in the day. But I mean, we've talked about Mobey Forum's journey now for the past 20 years, and like we already discussed, the technology and the landscape has developed a lot during this time. I specifically remember a Mobey Forum member meeting, I think it was 2008 or 2009, and we were joking about NFC, the near field communication capabilities or lack thereof in the very new Nokia handsets. Yeah, it was always the topic of the conversation in Mobey Forum was which phones have NFC and which don't. And then following that, which ones support what kind of secure elements and what could you actually do with these things? And will anybody really use any of these services? Now, of course, today, pretty much any device, any smart device you buy is capable of either using Apple's or Google's Pay or using what we call host card emulation to do bank-specific payments, for example. But main point being that you're able to pretty much pay anywhere with your phone, NFC or otherwise, in your day-to-day life. Back in 2008, this definitely didn't seem like it would come as soon as it actually finally did, 10 years later. Now, this development, like we briefly touched on this already. I mean, when this mobile financial services started 20 years ago, is now mainstream, and it's already what many people would say a solved problem. People are already using these mobile phones for payments. So, what are the things that you already mentioned? What I'm working on right now, but what's next for Mobey Forum? Is it like mission accomplished already? And what do you see moving forward in the future for Mobey Forum?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, sort of payments, although it continues to be a central topic for us, it's not kind of the question of solving mobile payments anymore. But I think the digital payment services industry is still kind of evolving very much, and there's new players coming in and new sort of services being created, and I think there's still a lot of a lot to explore for us and a lot to explore for banks sort of in terms of things like virtual currencies and Internet of Things, and what's the role of banks in those. Also, data continues to be a huge topic in many different ways, sort of data privacy, predictive analytics, AI, these kind of topics. So I think there's still the mobile digital financial services industry has not yet been kind of accomplished. So there's a lot of work for us still to do, and it keeps evolving, and Mobey keeps evolving along with the industry as it has for the past 20 years. So.
Yeah. I think our listeners will agree that there's a lot of work to be done in banking and financial services still. So a lot of work to be done for all of us, for sure. But time flies, so we do need to the final segment of our episode. And this is, of course, where we pick a story from the news cycle that is a little bit far away, maybe not that far away, but a little bit off of the main topic of today. And because all of us are living in Finland, the ones recording this episode, I couldn't really let this one pass. 1 in 4 Finns have downloaded the COVID-19 tracing app in just 4 days. And this is from Reuters. There's a couple of reports on this, but this one's from Reuters. 1 in 4, so 25% of the entire population of Finland downloaded this app in just 4 days. And comparing this to, I think in France, they've had it out for a couple of months already, and it's like 1% of the population. Now, I know Finns are traditionally kind of early adopters in many things digital. Wow, this is pretty fast. I thought everybody was supposed to be worried about privacy these days. Any thoughts, Paul?
Well, I suppose there is a trade-off here, right, between privacy and wellness in the eyes of the citizens here in Finland. But also, if you think back to the fact that Finland generally is quite digitally savvy, and you look at the app and you look at the capabilities, there is no privacy as such. It's based on just registering, based on the Bluetooth of the phones around you. Yeah. So, and if you actually follow the news well enough, a lot of the mobile phone providers like Apple are actually bringing this functionality out in their operating system in new releases coming forward, right, to be able to continue to do this tracking. So yes, I downloaded it. I got my children to download it. The only thing that actually caught me with this app, apart from the fact that it was only in Finnish, which meant that I was completely unaware of what was going on and needed help to deal with it. Is that
Details.
Details, yeah. So who cares about little things like that? Just install the thing and use it. But it's the fact that I installed it on my relatively new iPhone, and after having installed it, I've been warned twice that the app needs more space because it needs to store, the codes from all of the phones that I've been near. So I'm wondering, how memory hungry this app is going to be going forwards, and whether that's going to be a restriction for many phone users. Particularly, I'm thinking about younger people who maybe don't have that expensive phones and fill their phones up with games and pictures. They might hit into some problems. But apart from that, good. I hope you installed it, Ville.
I have, and actually I haven't noticed this storage thing, and now I'm almost, I want to pick up my phone and check how much storage it's actually using. But that's a good point. So how about you, Elina?
Yes, I got it too the very first day. So I'm obedient Finn. But I think when you were comparing to France and the numbers in France, I think one reason why the Finns have been so good in downloading this is kind of the level of trust we have in government and in authority and kind of the transparency of government here compared to many other countries. So I think that's one kind of key reason why people were so keen to download this.
Yeah, that's true. We talked about that a little bit in the past episodes as well. The Nordic culture and trusting of the government is an interesting feature, and which is also reflected in the way digital services, also financial services, have been adopted, also in terms of bank authentications and so forth. That is time for maybe another topic for another episode. So, unfortunately, my friends, as always, time flies when you're having fun. So it's time to close another fun episode of Fintech Daydreaming. But before we finally close the episode, Elina, Paul and I would like to give you a chance to let the listeners know how can they find out more about you and MobiForum, how can they get in touch, and anything else interesting going on in your life right now.
So you can find me, probably easiest way to find me is on LinkedIn. So Elina Mattila. And to find out more about MobiForum, go to the website www.mobeyforum.org. We're planning an open event for this autumn at Mobey as well. So kind of turning one of our member meetings into one where we invite the whole industry to come and see what we're about and see Mobey in action. So look out for that, so you can kind of find out a little bit more about Mobey Forum there as well.
Fantastic. And thanks again for coming on to the show as a guest. And thank you for all the great insights you've shared us with here today. And of course, thank you to all our great listeners out there. We quite obviously couldn't really do this without you. We are appreciating your listening to us. Now, do you have a fintech subject you would like Paul and I to cover episode, or maybe you have a great story to share yourself and would like to join us as a guest? Do ping us on LinkedIn or on anchor.fm page and let us know. See you all again in 2 weeks' time when we will have another great guest with us. This has been Fintech Daydreaming.